Okay, here is Lab 6, Week 7, and this is William Schwab. We're a little out of sync because we spent 1 week soldering the shield together. The first objective is just simply to move the servo to discrete commands, and the servo runs from 0 to 180 degrees. And over here is our little servo, and there's a little flag on the end of the locking block. When the flag is pointing kind of towards us, that's when we're at 0 degrees. So you can see it just moving around, and there it's at 0. And that's objective number 1. Okay, here's objective 2, and this one's pretty simple. We're going to control the servo with a pot. And all we have to do is, the only trick is to map the A to D value instead of our usual, however we want to do it, 0 to 255. We have to map it to the 0 to 180, which is required by the servo. Now what we've got over here is we've got our servo and we've got our pot. Now I've got the pot kind of turned upside down, and the shaft is jammed into the computer. So that allows me to granularly, fairly accurately turn the servo pot, or turn the pot. And you can see that when I turn the pot that the servo responds accordingly. And that's objective number 2. Okay, here's objective 3, and here we're just going to have our motor, our DC motor, go either forward or reverse. And we're going to have 2 push buttons to control it. Now here's our truth table down here, and if we have neither push button pressed or both of them pressed, we aren't going to move at all. And then we just have if statements to go through the 4 states. It'll be if, else if, and then finally an else. And over here, and I'm going to have to yell at the thing because the speaker is very hard to hear when the motor starts running. If we load the program, and our forward button is over here by the battery, and we go forward, and there's forward, and forward is clockwise from above. Now here's reverse, and it'll be the opposite direction. And there we go. Now the only thing we should say is we adjusted the totally off to be 93 because our servo is kind of making these Morse code sounds, so 93 seemed to get rid of that. But that's objective number 3. Okay, here's the 4th and final objective. And here we're using analog inputs to control the speed, and we have on-off buttons for turning the motor on-off. Now we have up here the initialization. We also have this motor enable that we're using. Initially when we go through the setup, we turn our motor on. Then we go down here, and our loop, we start, well, our truth table is, we hit the start button, and then the servo will start, but the DC motor starts, but then the pot controls the value of the speed of the motor. And again, now we've mapped it, and this is kind of important, from 20 to 140 so that it goes the right speed. Our stop again will be 93, and then we go in here for a while loop, if, and we have else if, and then finally an else to figure out where we're at. Now the important thing, well, one of the important things that we found out in doing this is because we got lost in the loop several times, is to print out what part of the loop you're in. So if you're stuck in the else if, it'll keep printing out the else if loop, so you know where you're at. Anyway, let's load the program and see what happens. And initially when we load it, we'll be running. And again, I'll have to talk really loud. So there the motor goes. Now we also have LEDs that will tell us what condition our motor is in. So we're starting off, and we have our pot that we can control the speed. So we've got our off button over here, our on button over here, and when neither button is depressed, we just keep the value that we used to be on. So we can turn it off, and it'll stay off. And we turn it on. Now our pot is going to adjust the value. And remember when we do this, that's about full speed, And then we slow down, and because it's a DC servo, now it'll start to reverse. And then we can reverse speeds and go like that. And it'll stay at that speed when we stop it, and then turn it back on. So anyway, that's the end of the fourth demonstration.